Welcome to the SDA Housing Podcast, brought to you by NDIS Property Australia. Before starting this episode, we need to provide a general disclaimer. Information contained in this podcast is general in nature only. It does not take into account the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. You need to consider your financial situation and needs before making any decisions based on the information in this podcast. And you should consider seeking independent and professional advice for your personal circumstances. All right, let's begin.
Hello everybody, my name is Minh and I'm your co-host with Matthew, and we're from NDIS Property Australia, and you're listening to the SDA Housing Podcast. Our show explains, highlights, guides and brings awareness about all things SDA in this ever-changing NDIS world. Matthew, welcome back. How are you?
Very good, very good. I'm just happy to be here. Yeah, how about yourself?
Good, thank you. So what's our topic today?
Our topic today is Ask Us Anything, and this is the second edition of this, I suppose. Did 5 questions last time, and we're doing 5 questions again of questions we've received recently, and then also questions that we receive often, and just hoping to kind of highlight some of the potential answers to these questions in a way which builds value, and I hope helps out our people who might have these questions at home.
Right. Well, what's the first question then, Matt?
So our first question is, how long after completion is a property tenanted? What is the time frame on tenancy, and what are the factors that potentially affect tenancy in the short term and long term?
Well, wouldn't you agree, Matt, that it actually depends on when marketing began on the procurement service? Also, first of all, when engagement of a provider occurs, and then secondly, when they begin their marketing. That's really the factor here, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah. So obviously we encourage our potential investors and clients to begin the process of finding tenants as soon as possible, once it's viable to do so. So after building starts is generally a good time to engage a provider to essentially get your ducks in a row and begin the process of finding tenants for the property.
But the average is 7 to 9 months across the industry to find participants?
To fully tenant a property?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think we've generally said that across the board, across all of the NDIS, generally you would get your first tenant in the first 1 to 3 months or something like that.
Call it 3 months, yeah.
Call it 3 months. But obviously that depends on a number of different factors.
And those factors being when the provider was engaged, when the marketing began, when the participants were procured. So I reckon, to be safe, Matthew, 3 to 5 months for tenant number 1, 7 to 10 months for tenant number 2. That is a conservative estimate for this question. Yeah. Moving on, next question, Matt.
How do I exit SDA? So am I locked into an SDA investment over the 20 years that I'd receive funding for participants being in the property? How does that work?
Do you get this question a lot from investors?
I do get this question a bit, because a lot of my investors that I speak to, they generally say, oh, so I'm locked into this scheme for 20 years. I am, forced to have my NDIS property for 20 years. What I generally say is, it's not that you're locked into an SDA property for 20 years. It's just that you're eligible to receive that increased income for having SDA funded participants in your property over those 20 years. So it's not where you're locked into your investment. It's just that your property is eligible to receive that increased income over those 20 years. So in terms of exiting SDA, there's a few options. So if I wanted to simply sell my property as an SDA property, I can do that. We've been approached a few times to sell existing built SDA properties. So that is an option. Another option would be to transition the property to the regular rental residential market. It's about, would you say, Min, it's about 10 grand to convert back to a regular residential property?
Probably 10 to 20 grand, yes. I mean, there's not much to convert, really. I mean, taking the hoist provisions out, all the suspended slab ceiling there, adding doorway to the extra large bathroom. Yeah, there isn't much to do, but I reckon 10, 15 grand. 15 grand is a nice number to convert a SDA house into a normal house, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so that's another option. So either selling it as an SDA, selling it as moving it into the regular residential market. And then at the end of that 20 years, the other exit condition would be that it gets essentially allocated to being a legacy stock. I mean, did you kind of want to explain that process?
No, it's legacy is probably not. It's really, really further down the track. So we'll just stick to this exit strategy. Yeah. Well, Matt, you can talk about maintenance first, and I'll give.
Yep. Okay. No worries. So the next question is, who covers the damage done by tenants in a property, and how does maintenance work? Yep. Okay. So generally, there's kind of three scenarios in a property, an NDIS property, so it's a bit of a grey area, and it would depend on the individual situation and the extent to the damage, what was done, who it was done by.
In terms of maintenance,
Yeah, so the general wear and tear of the property is generally done by the NDIS provider, such as upkeep, I suppose general wear and tear.
But no, hang on. If the SIL provider, so the service provider on site is managing, looking after the participant, then yeah, the general clean-up every day stuff is the care on site, obviously. If it's a handyman kind of job, the service provider will contact the SDA provider, property manager, and they will call in a handyman to do the actual task on hand, which is going to be a call-out fee, plumber and whatever else. Call-out fee and an hourly rate, and they'll be deducted from the revenue of the income of the investor via the SDA providers. That's what I mean by the maintenance there. It's just general maintenance cost there, Matt.
Right, okay.
In terms of the damages done by tenants, I think there's three answers, and it depends on the situation, Matthew. We've spoken to various providers over the years, and they've given us differing opinions on who's responsible for damages. I'll give you two or three of them now. Firstly, if it's very minor, small damage, maintenance things, that's more of a handyman thing, $200, $300, $400 kind of job with call-out fee and cost there by labour. They'll be billed to the owner, the investor of the property, organised by the SIL provider and the SA provider, who will call out the tradie. That's number one. Number two is if the damage was caused by the participant and was because of their disability and witnessed by the SIL provider, then that apparently can be claimed back via the NDIS as actual costs of damage. Number three is if it's major damage and it doesn't apply to option number two, it's going to go under the insurance policy of the landlord, the SDA home insurance policy, and they'll have to claim the actual damages via the excess of their policy. And one more, actually, number four, I just thought of this. In some circumstances, the damages can be claimed or is responsibilities by the care provider on site, is as per their insurance policy, because they're running a business on site. So they can also be accountable and will be accountable, depending on circumstances, for the damages themselves. So they're the four answers, Matt.
So it's a bit grey, just depends on the individual situation and the provider that you're working with.
So we've asked this question many times over the years, and we've been given multiple different answers every single time. And we have never received a uniform answer at all, no.
All right, so next question came in from one of our clients to do with potential B2B relationships with our company. The client essentially said that they operate a...
Do you want if I read the...
Yeah.
He says here, I was on your webinar the other day, and I've been looking for a suitable NDIS property myself to buy via SMSF, and I also have two clients looking to do the same. I run a very successful and trusted mortgage finance business, and I have had some dealings with some NDIS providers. However, they seem really pushy. I'm very protective of my reputation, and I only want the best for my clients, not a quick commission. Off the back of your webinar, I feel like you guys might operate the same way. Matt, your thoughts?
Yeah, so, I mean, we do get this a fair bit, obviously, speaking on other companies that they might be, very pushy about just getting us a quick sale, which obviously we're not about, and we're more about, similar to this client, trying to recommend and offer solutions that are the best for all parties involved. So in terms of, I guess, our situation, we do work with various B2B agents.
But that's very rare.
It's very rare, yes. So,
And Matt, can I just ask you this question? Over the last 3-ish years, you've been working in office. I assume you've spoken to a lot of agents ringing up and asking about, can we work with you, kind of question, right?
probably, I would say over that time, maybe 50.
Yep, I've got another 50 myself to 100. Yep, but plenty of people ask. Yeah. And what is our hesitancy ourselves here? I mean, we're not. What are your thoughts as to, well, should we, shouldn't we?
I would say just based on past experience, a lot of people who come to us to do this
As an agent,
we would say, okay, cool, excellent. I'm looking forward to working with you. And a lot of them disappear, essentially. They say that they've got a myriad of potential clients who are looking to buy NDIS properties, and then we don't really hear from them. So I think for a lot of people doing this, they've heard about NDIS, they're excited by it, but they don't know anything about it. And then, it's kind of the concept of the blind leading the blind.
a lot of agents, they don't really understand how complex the SDA process is and how complex the SDA income funding is within the NDIS. Because it is disability, Matt. I mean, at the end of the day, the topic of disability is very complex. It's taken us many years ourselves to grasp mentally how this all works and its application. So I would expect the same for other people trying to enter this SDA world to work in there as a professional. Now, it is very hard. We do this I want to say 24/7, but I want to sleep. But 24/7 is literally we are 100% 24/7 if we can, passionate about SDA. And this is all we do, SDA, NDIS. Many agents, Matt, wouldn't you agree? They're all they're in traditional real estate trying to get into SDA, and when they realize how hard it is, they just jump back out of it, yeah?
The most common response, because I would generally ask them, what's your experience with SDA properties? And the common response was, I've heard about it. So, at the end of the day, I suppose we're not looking to, take someone on board who, like this inquiry, wants a quick sale and just wants to get it in and out.
He says he doesn't want quick sale. He wants to go slow. He wants to do the right thing. He's not about the pushy sales. He wants to do the right thing. So
yeah,
credit to him. This mortgage broker, we'd love to work with him for sure. But yeah, we are we're very selective. Yeah.
Yeah. What I was going to say was essentially in line with obviously doing the right thing, not pressing for a quick sale. We also want someone to be experienced and take their time, understand what they're offering their clients in terms of the SDA space, as we do.
Yeah,
essentially.
Because for us, Matthew, this year has been a big learning curve ourselves as a business, but we've experienced exponential growth going from 20 to 35 staff in the last 6 months. And we're all about advice and research and statistics and due diligence and feasibility. Advice is 2/3 of our focus and our resources, and sales is 1/3. Yes, 4 years ago, we were 100% sales focused, but we've evolved within the NDIS SDA world, and we believe that advice and strategy for product for SDA is more paramount and more important than doing a sale. And that's why we spend so much time and effort into professional development of our staff, training and mentoring of how statistics and data and analytics work. And that's why we're a little bit different from the rest of the crowd, I guess. Yeah. So anyway, I think that that covers that answer. I think we're very selective with who we work with. If this broker, Adam is his name, would like to talk more about how we can help him out, happy to do so. However, we are not a training college. We're not here to teach other advisors or other brokers how to do this. We're here to facilitate their education and their process, and we charge for our time. We don't do it for free. We charge for the time in terms of data research reports, financial modeling. We do all that, not for free, but for a fee to help the investors understand what their options are, all right? That's more important to us as a business than trying to make a sale, so to speak. So I'm glad that we as in our business here and this guy here, the broker, Adam, share the same vision, because we want to go slow. We want to go diligently with our advice and let the client go from there. That's number 4, Matthew. What is our last question? The Ask Us Anything question for us to cover here.
So this is a question which kind of relates to the general direction our kind of business is going in terms of a kind of fee-for-service model. And we've been approached by a lot of different people over the country looking to do potential developments in SDA, which are more kind of in the nuance where they might have something individual to suit their own situation or what they want to achieve, and they want to look at different options and consult with us on our advice on different development options. So we received an email from a potential client.
His name's Ken, by the way.
His name's Ken, yeah. Yeah, so he just said, our situation is we're a young couple in our mid-70s, which I thought was a bit funny, living in a very comfortable 2-story family home in Toowoomba. However, I realised that we may have to move in the future, and we secured the last available block of land in a desirable part of Toowoomba with the idea of building a small block of apartments. Our interest in NDIS housing is twofold, building 2, 3 or 4 apartments, and then also having a good understanding of NDIS ourselves to help plan a future for ourselves. So they also say, I would be interested in talking to someone in your organisation that could provide information, RE and NDIS development and build project in Toowoomba.
Matthew, your thoughts?
So obviously what I just said, we do...
Well, first of all, his last line there is, he wants us to provide information on a provider and a builder. Now, does giving a provider name and a builder name, that satisfy the solution here? Because that's...
I mean, we could do that if we were very kind of blasé, but I think this is more of a situation where we'd want to consult with the client and offer different solutions, different possible outcomes. If they've got a block, there might be 10 or so different options in terms of doing a potential development.
But Matt, Ken, if you're listening, I'll say to you this. Provider, there's a name there. Builder, there's a name there. What is that? Are you going to go off now and just build a block of apartments? I think you're going to get it all filled up and it's done? No. You're in your mid-70s, so your risk has to be very low. My first question to you is, Ken, how big is the block? Will it be compliant for SDA purposes? Now, there's the words, I think it's flat versus it is very flat. So I want to make sure that you know what you're doing. 2, the cost of construction is high. Are you allowed, from a council point of view, to build a block of apartments on this site? Are there restrictions? Are there building covenants? Can you afford the cost of construction? Right? I mean, you're talking about building 3, 4, 5 apartments here. Development costs, project costs, financing costs, construction costs, vacancy costs, furniture costs. There's a lot of costs here. I would dare say it's going to cost you, if you're doing 4 apartments, $700,000 times 4 is 2.8 million plus development costs, $3 million. $3 million to build these apartments. Do you have $3 million to blow as a 75-year-old person, investor? Do you understand tenancy mix funding? Do you understand vacancy costs? Do you have a cash buffer? So for you to have bought this block, I'm assuming it's going to be 1,000 square meter block of land plus, right? Between 800, 900 square meters to 1,500 square meters. So it's a large block. A couple of apartments, I'm thinking you're gonna blow $3 million on construction costs. Do you have a buffer of cash to handle vacancy? Are you actually going in with cash, or you can go to the bank? If it's a bank, are they going to lend you this money? So again, Matthew, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, because I don't want an elderly couple to blow $3.5 million of construction costs and development costs to end up with empty apartments. Let's be honest. I would hate to do that to anyone. I wouldn't even do that. Sorry, but what are you doing? Why are you doing this? What's your reason? Right? If this is your nest egg, and Matt, you and I have seen this in the past 4 years now, 3-4 years now. People think that SDA is their golden ticket, right? And how many times have you seen it blow up in people's faces? In wrong location, wrong timing, wrong design, wrong product, wrong provider, wrong builder, wrong everything. One of those being wrong, it's the whole formula is ruined, and people don't understand. Matt,
yep.
Your feedback?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's so many different factors, and we would ideally want to account for all of them. And consider all of them, not just I'm looking for a provider and a builder.
Yeah. So okay, let's move forwards now. Let's talk about the solution here. First of all, Ken, I hope that one of our staff can reach out to you this week or next week to organise a video call with our various staff in the office here, like Denise and Debbie. They can talk to you about their process in doing the data research. That's number one, data research, number one. Number two is to have a more detailed chat about what should go on the site. Council approval, cost of construction, design. Matthew, design. I mean, I don't think we talk about enough on the topic design. Your thoughts, please, on design.
I mean, ultimately, what is a unit complex? How does that look? Is it a duplex? Is it, just a standard block unit? What does that even look like? There's a bunch of different potential outcomes there.
And by the way, just before anyone says, "Oh, what do you mean, Matthew, a duplex unit?" Let me say something. One of our clients, Michael in Perth, he has a massive site, a good site in Perth, inner city Perth. He's building a duplex, a three-story duplex apartment. Now, I had no idea that you could actually build a duplex 3-story, which is an apartment. And yet here he is doing it in Perth. So the point is, you just don't know what's possible until you sit down on the drawing board to do design work. And design is everything. Design, data, desirability. Okay, so don't think just building 3 apartments on the site is a solution. It may be, right? But again, risk and reward. Is the risk with the reward? So as you were saying, Matt, design, yep, there we go. And then also options, as you said earlier, Matthew, a block of land could have 8, 9, 10 options here on a block of land, if the block's big enough, yeah, and within council approvals. So our process really is, Ken, sit down and do 6, 7, 8 weeks worth of research, data analytics, financial modelling, concept design, feedback to you as a property developer investor, what the yields are from a return point of view, what's the realistic returns, what are the risks of this said project. And right now, in this theoretical 10 scenario project, I don't know what you're building. Are you building a block of apartments? Are you building a standalone house? Are you doing a splitter block with 2 houses side by side, low sets, or 2 high stories, double story houses side by side, or a duplex, or a villas, or multiple villas, or an extra large house with 4 or 5 apartments internally, or an actual apartment complex? So there are multiple, I'd say up between 7 to 10 design options for your site, okay? And right now, I'm sure you didn't even realize that, right? Because providers, they love side-by-side dwellings, right? They're a little bit anti-apartments, by the way, but there's a way to really maximize the output and yield on your project, on your site, right, as an investor. Because at the end of the day, let's be honest, you want to return your money. And Matthew, as you can appreciate, return on money, ROI, return on investment, is important for every investor. So we've got to be realistic, don't we?
Yeah, well, it's measuring the potential return on investment versus what are the risks. And how do we kind of find the right balance between those two outcomes?
What have we all been saying for the last few years, Matt, with terms of 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 7 to 10? What's our generic conversation with investors these days? Don't assume the worst. Don't assume the top returns.
Yeah, well, ultimately we say, just don't achieve the best. Don't look towards the best possible outcome, but more of a conservative, what's the worst case scenario? And then how do we kind of look at what options, exactly what I just said, just balance that risk with potential, the best case outcome, I suppose.
Now, Matthew, you've seen all our IMs the last few years. Have you noticed our IMs and our sales brushes of houses packages? The house packages, the maximum return, Matthew, is hot. Maximum is the key word. It's pretty high up there, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, if everyone could just achieve the maximum return,
yeah,
I suppose we wouldn't need to be doing this podcast.
But yet the maximum return on apartments is very different.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So obviously with an apartment, provided that you have a tenant in it, I would say, would you say this, Minh, that it's less variable? If you've just got one tenant and then you've got one tenant, it only has one tenant, there's less of a tenancy mix, there's less of a variation in potential incomes.
Yeah. But my point is this, the maximum yield for an apartment, SDA, is around about the 11 to 12%, 11 to 13% yield gross.
Yep.
And net drops it down to about 9, 10, right? Whereas the houses maximum is 15 to 20%. With the net and realistic yield being 9 to 12% net yield. So again, I just want to be clear to Kenneth, who may be listening here. Why did you choose? Why are you thinking apartments? Because apartments are higher risk, higher costs, higher vacancy. And Matt, did you know that the biggest vacancy in Australia are FA apartments? They're the biggest vacancy in Australia. I think 40%, I think 40% of all FA apartments are empty in Australia.
That's a huge.
Not HBSs. I don't know why. I don't know why FA but not HBS. But seems to be the FA ones. Yeah. I think maybe the FA participants gravitate towards the HBS because if their condition deteriorates, Matthew, they want to be in a HBS apartment. Not stuck in an FA. They have to move out of in 3 years' time.
Ultimately, if they have the option, and both the apartments, apart from being FA/HBS, are very similar, they're going to choose HBS.
Yes, exactly. No one wants the FA when they get the HBS instead. Yeah. So anyway, Matt, I think we've covered enough on this last one, being the one for this one in Toowoomba here with Kenneth. I do want to add also that being a regional town to almost 2 hours west of Brisbane, the costs are higher for construction, labour costs and materials as well, logistics of delivery of materials, everything's all higher. So higher costs means lower yield. Lower yield means less return for you as an investor. Again, I asked the question to you, Kenneth. In your mid-70s, are you willing to blow $2 to $3 million in construction with all the risks involved here? Okay, and I do suggest you talk to our team here in Brisbane here about the data, the demand, the supply of product coming out for SDA in Toowoomba, the options for construction and development on site, the delivery of the product with the right builder and providers, because our job is also to help you vet the builder, help you vet the provider. And I want to be very clear here to everyone listening, we're not selling a product here. The client came to us, asked for advice. We're merely giving our professional advice back to him on a fee-for-service retainer, and then we finish, we move on. So we have no hidden agenda to make a sale and be pushy. We're here to help the client's questions and demands and requirements, and we will deliver that by way of written report and advice and service to the investor. Yeah. So Matthew, I think that covers up our 5 questions of the Ask Us Anything number 2 episode that you are in control of. How do you think we went today?
Very good, very good. I really like these because it's just an opportunity to kind of address standalone questions, which probably wouldn't be enough to constitute a full podcast episode, but nevertheless, they're super important to address, kind of to give a more broader opinion and our thoughts on these questions.
And one last bit to this episode. In the last 3 to 4 months, our business has been inundated with sophisticated investors who know a lot more about SDA but don't know enough to go the last step to pull the trigger to proceed. We're getting so much fee-for-service work that they're coming to us for advice and support, and our business has totally evolved to that next professional level, which is hourly rates, fee-for-service reports. Our focus is advice now. We were a sales business many years ago. Now we're an advisory business. We give advice. Go look at our webinars every month. Go look at our masterclasses we're holding around Australia. We're all about education and transparency, and we want you, our listeners, to be aware of what is possible, because the market is changing, and you got to change with the market, right? And it's very important that you ask questions. Always ask questions of who you're talking to in the NDIS field to make an informed decision. We may not be the solution for you to provide you a product in the middle of, nowhere in Perth or Sydney, wherever it is. But it's important for you to ask the right questions to the right people so that you are comfortable with your journey moving forwards. And that's why we have this session, Ask Us Anything session, so that Matthew every month can give some feedback to some input about the questions people are asking. Yeah.
Yep.
All good, Matt? Any last words of advice before we hang up?
No, just kind of reiterating what you said, just in terms of asking the right questions, being aware that there's It's dynamic. There's more elements than just knowing what the provider and the builder are, and being aware, doing the research, taking the time to get it right. That's my advice, yes.
Thanks, Matthew. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure you are subscribed and following us so you can keep in the loop with all of our upcoming episodes. We would really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating, a written review, and to share this podcast with those that could benefit. Until next time, catch you on the next episode.